PandaDoc is offering a payment functionality in the whole, let's call it like the value chain, right? I think you described it quite well already, where the potential journey might start with a proposal and then might go into a contract, a signing. And obviously, at the end of this chain, at one point, maybe sooner or later, needs to be a payment functionality happened. And this is now something which PandaDoc has integrated. Can you maybe explain a little bit more around the origin of this payment product and how this fits in the overall customer journey?
Yeah, totally. I think that when you consider this a lead to cash or lead to deal closed workflow, then essentially you could basically split it into everything that happens prior to the signature of a document, everything that happens post the signature of the document. And that's basically how we've been thinking about that at PandaDoc. So kind of considering everything that is involved when it comes to this negotiation of the contract, making sure that we can actually turn a proposal into an agreed contract as part of the wider agreement, then making sure that contract actually can be collected. And when collecting this contract, you could think about like, first you need to bill against the contract, right? There might be different pricing rules and different configuration that you agreed on in your contract, that we want the user to be able to collect that. And it could be that you just kind of, you could also use some sort of billing feature for that. But the big benefit of using PandaDoc end-to-end from lead to cash, basically from pre to post signature, is really not needing to leave the tool at any point in time, being able to just stay within your workflow and then hand over to, for example, a billing department or finance team when need be and when they want to kind of use a different system of record. But for our users, it's just very important to kind of have this linkage between, for example, a sales customer or a member of the team, which is part of the sales team, to a member of the team, which might be a part of the revenue operations team, and being sure that we can actually power the transaction more holistically or more end-to-end. And that's really where PandaDoc can be of tremendous value to customers, to link different parts of the workflow end-to-end. Yeah.
And if we like drill a little bit deeper into the actual customer journey, I would imagine now let's say we had a proposal or a contract, it's signed, and now the person who is the provider of the service or the product now wants to start the payment or request a payment. This is something that the person basically triggers on their side. You mentioned already that might be a little bit configuration necessary, depending if it's specific tiered pricing, for example, and these kind of things. And then I think at the end of it, what probably would happen is my assumption, an email gets sent out to the client where the client then has the possibility to settle this payment through a payment method of their choice. Is that correct? Or how would the user journey look like?
Exactly. I think you covered it quite nicely. The quote or any sort of structured information about what has to be collected. This is the baseline or the foundation for actually the configuration that can be used with any kind of payment provider that can be connected to PandaDoc. And if we are using Stripe, for example, then you would still be able to configure based on the document, based on the contract that's right in front of you, you would still be able to configure, for example, a preset method like bank transfer or credit card. But you could also just reuse the settings that you have in your Stripe account for payment methods, for example. And then once you decided on the method and decided on specific payment schedule that follows this quote or that follows the structured input that you gave, then basically all that remains is basically the payment processor then kind of executing that request and following the billing logic and following the rules that you essentially set up. And it will just collect with the method that you wanted it to collect on the schedule that you predefined, with the pricing mode, such as different pricing models, with the pricing mode that you defined. And it would be able to do all of that very seamlessly, where basically you set up or configure these rules or give it these configurations within PandaDoc. And then off the back of this, it would create a subscription or it would create an invoice in Stripe, for example. Automatically, you would need to go into Stripe and manually create a subscription or trigger a subscription to start or create an invoice for a contract once you see that the contract got signed or something like that.